Time for an American Family News Update. I'm Bronson Woodruff. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu dissolved the influential war cabinet tasked with steering the war in Gaza. This is according to Israeli officials. This move came days after a key member of the body bolted the government over frustrations surrounding the Israeli leader's handling of the war. The officials spoke on the condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to discuss the change with the media. They said going forward, Netanyahu would hold smaller forums with some of his government members for sensitive issues surrounding the war. That includes his security cabinet, where governing partners who oppose ceasefire deals and have voiced support for reoccupying Gaza are members. More than $3.4 trillion in individual and estate tax cuts are set to expire by the end of 2025. Fox's Chad Pergram has that report.
Re-upping those expiring tax cuts is going to be one of the biggest goals for congressional Republicans and the former president. Most Republicans appear to back Mr. Trump following last week's meetings in Washington. Republicans want to make sure they have a plan in place to govern if they control the presidency, the House, and the Senate. But how they handle tax cuts and cut the deficit is hard. The numbers may not add up. They also want to curb regulation. And then there is the border. Democrats say that even moderate Republicans from swing districts are standing foursquare behind Mr. Trump.
President Biden's re-election campaign is spending about $50 million through the end of June. The blitz includes its first television ad trumpeting Donald Trump's felony conviction and also signals that the Democratic incumbent is seeking to make his Republican opponent's legal woes a bigger issue as the November elections approach. The advertising push comes with Election Day still more than 5 months away, but Biden's campaign says it wants to more clearly define the choice between the candidates ahead of the first debate between them that's coming up in Atlanta, scheduled for June 27th. The ad campaign includes more than $1 million geared toward media reaching Black, Hispanic, and Asian American voters, and a spot highlighting former President Trump's conviction on 34 felony counts in the New York so-called hush money case. Former President Trump is pledging to cut taxes on tips if he's reelected in 2024. Kelly Saberi explains.
He made this announcement in Las Vegas, which is home to one of the most robust hospitality sectors in the country, and it's in a state where Donald Trump narrowly lost in 2020 and 2016. Data from the state tells us that 1 in 4 private sector jobs there rely on tips. IRS data shows workers earned more than $38 billion in tips in tax year 2018. The IRS introduced a program in 2023 to encourage accurate reporting when it comes to tips. At a campaign event on Saturday, the former president encouraged voters to write no tax on tips on their restaurant receipts. They acknowledged this would need congressional approval later after their initial announcement.
The Nonpartisan Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget estimates that proposal could increase the federal budget deficit by up to $250 billion over a decade. The U.S. Surgeon General has called on Congress, wanting Congress to require warning labels on social media platforms, similar to those you see that are now mandatory on cigarette boxes. Dr. Vivek Murthy said in an opinion piece in the New York Times that social media is a contributing factor in the mental health crisis among young people. Murthy said that the use of just a warning label wouldn't make social media safe for young people, but it would be a part of the steps needed. Last year, Murthy warned that there was not enough evidence to show that social media is safe for children and teenagers. He said at the time policymakers needed to address the harms of social media the same way that they regulate things like car seats, baby formula, medication, and other products that kids use. And that'll do it for this American Family News Update. Be sure and explore AFN.net where you can find much more news from a Christian perspective. I'm Bronson Woodruff.